Okay. The question was in regard to the pharmaceutical industry and the tendency to medicate anxiety and depression. I was asked to share my point of view. Firstly, my point of view is not absolute. There are circumstances in which I think medication is helpful. My issue is that most practitioners are trained to simply offer the medication. In other words, to alter or shift the biochemistry. There is a tendency to create terms and words and then think of the words as real. For instance, I'm walking down the hallway outside of my office and you'll hear a couple of therapists in conversation and somebody will say, Jane has ADD. And being my provocative self, I can't help myself, and I'll go up and I'll say, what do you mean? Well, Jane has ADD. And I'll say, what is ADD? Oh, come on, you know what ADD is, they say. I'll say, no. What you mean is that Jane exhibits behaviors which are consistent with what we call ADD. See, ADD isn't a thing. Depression isn't a thing. These are words. They symbolize and represent real human struggles. But when we look at these things as being objects unto themselves, we become powerless to shift them. I was working with a woman some years ago who had come to me after doing 6 or 7 years work with a therapist, and she struggled with anxiety. And I asked her what she had gained from her work. And she said to me, her therapist said to her the best she can do is work to manage her anxiety. I paused and I took a deep breath, calmed myself, and suggested to her that my belief was entirely different. You can do better than manage anxiety if you learn to shift your life experience to come into wholeness, if you learn to not continue to measure and analyze and control and predict, you can come out of anxiety. Similarly with depression. By the way, in that circle, which is fortunately still back up there, what we experience when we try to come out of the comfort zone is anxiety. It creates anxiety to come out. But if we give up and don't try to come out, we're left feeling depressed. So we could look at anxiety and depression through the model of that circle. Engage your anxiety, shift your relationship with it, and push out there and grow and emerge. Or stay inside the circle, which looks like depression. So my point of view about the tendency to medicate too quickly without proper questioning is an issue. When I was an intern in graduate school, I was working with a young man who was about to be put on medication for hyperactivity. And I asked him some questions which apparently no one had ever asked him. And I don't know where the questions came from. They were intuitive. So I asked him what he had for dinner, and it didn't sound like anything unusual in there. And then I asked him what did he eat or drink between dinner and bedtime. And he said he had about 7 Coca-Colas. But he couldn't sleep. So he was going to be medicated rather than be told to get off the caffeine. So my point of view about medication is that it has its place. But that should be it. It should have its place rather than become a monolithic approach. And again, we are the victims of a worldview that has no meaning, no purpose, in which we're cogs in the machine, suffering. And out of that suffering, we're then told we have this and we have that and take a pill.